both songs were my favorite. The Isley Brothers in the 70s and Public Enemy in the 80s. Deal with it. All right, we are kicking live on all cylinders. We're looking good. All right, how much time do we have left? Hold on.
3.5 minutes.
3.5. You still hearing the feedback? Okay. Are you linking us through something else that you're need a mic to use?
Yes, our mics are muted.
All right. Let me get my jacket because I'm in relax mode. No tie today. Let's go with time.
1.5 minute.
Excellent. Archbishop, we're going to go into a little introduction of you again, your ministry, your program, and we're going to hit what's happening in Philly. And then we'll go into part of the topic, fight the power with the Supreme Court ruling. Voter suppression. And it's time that we get our ground game going on locally, statewide, because Pennsylvania is taking the same steps as Arizona. Oh, big upheaval about Bill Cosby. We got the guy who was elected senator, yet they didn't recognize him. Yes, because they're fighting the upcoming power. They're fighting the Brown.
We have 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Let's do this. Okay, Dr. Palmer, you know the drill. God has called you for this.
5,
Let's
4,
let your gift shine.
3, 2, 1.
Good morning and welcome to What You Gotta Say. Now, for those of you who are watching us on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, and all those great channels. We do have the line in. And I've got a special guest, my co-host for the day. You've seen her on the show. She's a great friend to the show, hailing from Philadelphia, Archbishop Mary Palmer. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
Should I say Mr. Vincent or should I just say Vince? Or
look, I'm ex-military. You can call me anything, and I pretty much answer. But we're going to dive into Fight the Power because there are a lot of things going on. And after us celebrating the independence, we need to fight the power so that we can keep our independence. And we'll be right back in 2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Okay, we are back.
You opened a small business. That's a great way to have generational wealth. If you're a minority business, you may be struggling to keep your head above water. Why? In 2019, the black community spent $1.5 trillion because the black dollar lifespan, 28 days Asian communities, 19 days Jewish communities, 6 hours a month in the black communities. Major brands target the black media, TV, and radio. That's why blacks are brand shoppers. That's why they get a big slice of that $1 trillion pie. Your business needs exposure. You got quotes from cable networks and local radio. They charge a lot of money for a little exposure. Networking and social media is a full-time job to get part-time money. Let's look at a successful black business model. Remember Soul Train? It was a new black TV show that Johnson Cosmetics increased the exposure of Afro Sheen and made billions of dollars for Bobby Johnson. Where are you gonna find a good show for a low price? We have a talk show called What You Got to Say. What You Got to Say is a black-owned talk show streaming live on YouTube channels, Facebook Live. What You Got to Say has a diverse audience from 18 to 62 years old, and their gross income range from $32,000 to $122,000 a year. That exposure will get you a good slice of the $1.5 trillion. Tell us about your business. Maybe able to get on our black-owned spotlight. In 4 weeks, your business can go from surviving to thriving. To find out how you can get what's yours, email sales@squiresignage.com. They're waiting to hear what you got to say.
We have 3 seconds. 5, 4.
And welcome back to our show. Now, our co-host today from Philadelphia, Bishop Mary Palmer. How are you, Bishop?
I'm fine. How are you? And good morning to everyone.
Good morning. You've had a busy couple of weeks because, we communicated a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, what's going on in Philly? Really, Philly, you're at an all-time gun high. The violence is off the chain right now. You are just one step from them calling in the National Guard.
This is true. Philadelphia's violence rate of homicides is up by 33 to 35%. This past weekend, yesterday, it was a triple shooting. 2 people died. 1 young teenager was caught as well. A 10-year-old shot himself with their own gun. And I think the one that kind of surprised me was the shooting of 2 sisters sitting on their porch.
On their porch.
There is absolutely no fear and no respect of life. Years ago, not being biased, but you could shoot and kill a man and it became norm. When you start killing kids or women, it kind of hits a little bit differently. This past Saturday, I was at the funeral of a young man who was walking with another young man, and that young man was holding his 3-year-old son's hand, walking down the street. 2 guys hop out and shoot the 2 of them, and they both died. But the baby got shot 3 times and survived. And imagine the trauma in the child's life, seeing his dad killed. Um, it's that thing of violence. People say, well, it's the pandemic. Well, it's no jobs. Well, it's lack of education. Well, it's just anxiety. There's just no reason for people to do what they're doing. They have no resources, and so they resort to killing. That's a little bit of a stretch for me, because what I'm finding out is there is no way for people to resolve their conflict. We are not able to sit down, have a conversation with it as escalating. What I came through, and maybe you can remember, it was called a fair one.
Hey, that's right, baby.
It was knuckles. Whoever won, we shook hands. That was the end of it. If you were part of a pack like gangs or the mafia, they had their own way of doing their justice, but it never hit the front of your door, never hit your children, never hit your women. And now there is no conflict. You look at me, I'm ready to go back, get a gun, come back and beat you. You talk to me, you take my spot, I pull out a gun, I shoot you. So there is increased lack of conflict resolution. There's also a total abandonment of life. No respect for it, no matter who it is, what it is, why it is. It's as if it's of no effect. And so more people are burning folks due to those two things, I think, that are adjutants to the increased violence. Well, there are quite a few people that are doing some boots on the ground work. There are some groups that are been doing it for a while and trying to deal with our young male population, in particular between the ages of 16 and 24. In talking to them, reasoning with them, there are great places. I myself grew up with House of Umoja, Crisis Intervention Network, Benny Swans. You know, these guys, Lucian Blackwell, even my father, the late Reverend Dr. Melvin Floyd, they all collaboratively came together and decided, how can we do it? And they did it tangibly. And now, even through my nonprofit, the Community Healing Project for All, I have now decided to have a collaboration of partners. We have white, black, Jewish, Catholic, Muslim, Asian, and we're all coming together, elected official and non-elected, and saying, media, what can we do collectively to try and deter this violence that is happening? One way we are doing is with our healing posters, and those healing posters just say, let the healing begin. There is not a person in this world that doesn't need healing. From the trauma of COVID, or from the trauma of death, or from the trauma of violence, or from the trauma of losing your job, or even some for older folks, the trauma of not being in church, the building. That has been traumatic for quite a few. Then, of course, there's a lot of grief. Folks haven't been able to grieve properly, particularly during the height of the pandemic, when we were limited with 5 or 10 people to come to a funeral. We were not able to celebrate, as you know, we know how.
Well, we can have 14 people at our Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and now that it looks like the nation is starting to open up and travel is back, everyone couldn't wait to get together, some on Memorial Day, even more on July 4th. I think Labor Day will be totally off the charts. Folks are traveling. They're going everywhere, meeting people, seeing people, re-engaging.
But they're opening up, and people are engaging in public interaction, yet still carrying the same anxieties of the pandemic. And we have forgotten things like courtesy, respect, decency, understanding. No. It's all about me. And I'm not taking an L. So if you disagree with me, I'm getting my gun.
Despite the pandemic, some of this is just home training. Can I just be blunt?
Come on, speak the truth, shame the devil.
Children that are a generation or two younger than me have a very much I complex, me complex. They have no problem letting you know that is what I think, how I feel. You old, you can't tell me nothing. When I came through, we had chores. We knew not to talk back there with severe consequences.
Yeah,
respect our elders no matter what. And when the word no came down and you did not agree, there was a severe consequence. Once a day, that's considered abuse. And so a lot of parents are just giving up hope and let them do whatever they want. They can lay around, they don't have to work. They have every amenable experience of entertainment possible. They go anywhere. I mean, the day that I could be 14 going to the mall with 3 girlfriends and my parents don't know where I am, They're both in their grave. I'd have been dead when I finally got back home if my father didn't call the whole police force to go look out for me.
Can we talk?
Now children can tell your parents, that's my phone. Get out of my room. You can't tell me what to do. I'm almost grown. And out of fear of either being arrested or prosecuted, a lot of parents have given up on being able to discipline their children. So a child left to himself will bring about destruction to his family and shame on his mother. The Bible and Proverbs is clear. And what we are seeing now is a lot of young people who have absolutely no fear of their grandma or mama or daddy or uncle or godmom or godpop or grandpa or any other person. They are dealing with it the way they want to deal with it, which is rash, which is quick, which is without thinking. Now, when they stand in front of a judge, they really realize the seriousness of it.
Oh, no. When they stand in front of the judge, now they calling their mama. Ma, come get. No! You weren't listening then. Now, you listen now. You'll listen. Now, you listen now, right? You're going, oh, wait a minute. You wouldn't listen to your black mom and daddy, right? You wouldn't listen to your aunt and uncle in the streets. You wouldn't listen to none of the neighbors. No. See, now that a white man has you in cuffs, now you want all those people that you disrespected to come and save your behind.
And I can't even begin to tell you with the class that I was teaching in the state prison, particularly SEI Chester since it opened, and the guys that were sitting in my class, my weekly class that I had with them, I said to them, how many of you have not heard from your mama or beloved one since you've been here? And so they would raise their hands, and I would say, why? Because they gave me one chance, two chances, and by the third chance, they said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not you out. I'm not coming to visit you. You chose in this life, you deal with the consequences. You made your hard bed, you're going to lie in it. And I will tell you what is most daunting is that when they do come to themselves, like the prodigal son, when they finally realize that they've been doing what they've been doing, that they realize is, I wish I could take it back. I wish I could change. I wish there would be some things. So I encourage them to write a letter, to say it heartfeltly. Will that move it? I don't know, but you have at least gotten the expression of regret out toward them, and you can pray that the same God that you now know will be able to touch their heart, that when they read it, there will be forgiveness and maybe some beginning of communications. Now, I've helped many of the families in that regard to try and do mediation in reconnection and restoration of relationship.
Well, that's one of the biggest things that we talk with when because I'm in the prison ministry in New Jersey. That's one of the biggest things that we talk with the offenders, especially the offenders who are short timers, who are about to be ex-offenders. Yeah, well, they've burnt so many bridges right now, and the resources and support that they're going to need so that they can reduce recidivism. They are either too proud or too stupid to rebuild that. But we're going to come back with Archbishop Reverend Mary Palmer, and call in if you want. And I'm going to tell you right now, we do respect your First Amendment right to freedom of speech, but you better come correct. And come correct right after this break.
All right.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkedal, Yitkedash Shmei Rabbah, B'alma Divra Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah.
Our often repeated prayers,
Although we may be different,
Yet similar.
as we reach out to our Creator,
we offer all praise.
And we seek forgiveness.
we ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
We have 10 seconds.
3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome back. My co-host for the day, Archbishop Mary Palmer from Philadelphia. Now, fight the power. Right now, there are over 40 states which the states, using state rights, are changing the voter registration. They are making it difficult for people of color, black, brown, Asian, and in Arizona, which went to the Supreme Court and they upheld indigenous Americans. This is unfortunately nothing new.
No.
Why are they so hard, or why are they so hard pressed, or why are they so opposed of having a fair fight?
Wow. What they are, I believe, in my personal opinion, is they're afraid of the power we would have with our voice. If we had a voice and a vote, we really could change some things. Now, I know we're viewed as the underdog and we're minority, and maybe collectively we might be just a little bit of a majority.
Slight margin.
Majority.
Slight margin.
The only way to keep people in check is to keep them under control.
So if I control the vote, I control their voice.
Absolutely.
So
they can scream and holler and carry on and march and this and this and that. But if it doesn't change from where the power is, you're just, wasting your time. You're just gathering because you have nothing else to do. And nobody's really going to hear you.
That's right. Because I control your voice, so I can mute you. Go ahead and protest. I still got 18 months for my next election, and by that time you forgot why you were mad at me.
Absolutely, because we're always short-lived. We jump on something really quick for a minute and may continue to do the protest for a period of time. But after a while, after 5 days, 7 days, unless it is something as impactful as George Floyd, which I think has been the longest standing continuous fight that I have seen of recent. I mean, we protest with other ones who were subject to by police, but after a while, it kind of died down. You wait for the court hearing, you wait for the results. But George Floyd did something different because it was so impactful of people watching the actual act being done. In this case, when it comes to voting, what does it matter? There's a great apathy, and particularly among communities of color, not to vote. They don't think nothing's going to really, really change. They really believe that, if I vote, will my vote count? I vote every election since I was 18.
But whoa. We saw the power. We saw it. Last election, we saw the power of the vote. Mail-in ballots at an all-time high in Pennsylvania. In fact, Pennsylvania was the stake in the heart of Donald J. Trump and the Code of 45. So no. And Philadelphia led it in terms of people of color coming out in great numbers to make a change. We saw the power of that. So the
presidential. We lost quite a few in the state legislature. And now we have the same state legislature coming back to us, sitting up here saying, y'all got the president, but y'all didn't carry the state. And politics begins at
the state level. Oh, no. Your city level, then your state, and which carries on to the presidential. Okay, let's look at it. State of Pennsylvania. You guys had someone elected senator, and they didn't like him. They didn't acknowledge him.
And it took the court to literally tell them that he won the election fairly and have him seated. And that was because the majority are Republicans. We are now in the state of Pennsylvania. Might have went blue for Biden, but it went red for the state legislature. So now we're in a Republican-controlled General Assembly where all these guys are doing all this stuff to get rid of what we call our freedoms. They have now tied the hands of the governor. Whoever the next governor is can declare an emergency and extend it without approval by the General Assembly.
Well, what the heck do you have a governor for?
Huh?
So why do you need governor?
Figurehead.
So now the legislation.
And yet it was an electable event. It was a ballot question. But folks were only worried about voting and not reading the ballot questions. So while they sat back and said, okay, it's all right, but when we win this ballot question, it's going to be state law. So we wake up, ooh, so won, but their hands are tied. Because now the governor, who is able to extend support and institute moratoriums on something like the pandemic, the next one coming in will have to fight and get the approval of the Republican General-led Assembly. Same thing for voter suppression. Now you got to have your ID. And still some of them are challenging that Biden won the election and the 20 electoral votes from the state. This is like the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. They are poor losers.
Pardon me, Pennsylvania General Assembly, Pennsylvania Board of Elections is now mirroring Arizona.
That's correct.
Now, Arizona went in there and they said, oh, no. Because they had an audit. Pennsylvania had audits. In fact, you guys went to the Supreme Court to take on the Code of 45 and to gain the couldn't sue streak. Okay? They say that no, it was an election. You had to recount which Biden got more votes. So now they're challenging it again, saying that the same thing, because Arizona said, oh no, we are now testing with the cyber ninjas, the machines, because we want to ensure democracy, that it's a fair vote and fight. Pennsylvania just said, oh no, we're challenging this because we want to ensure fairness in our election. Arizona said, okay, we are now, it's not about suppressing or losing the actual votes, it's about an accurate count in our election. Pennsylvania sent their people to Arizona, and now they come back with the same bullcrap.
Okay. And by the time Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, some of the southern states that they are eyeing, that they know already had a challenge. Look at what happened with the election for the Senate. A Jew and a black. And them folks was just about ready to burn at the stake, because despite their attempts to suppress the vote, the vote spoke louder, and 2 senators were elected to the U.S. Senate. A black and a Jew.
Two incumbent, and one of the hardest things for an incumbent to do, a runoff, the power of the black vote.
Absolutely. And there's no doubt that the power of the black vote is popular, but why do you think that they want to suppress it? Because if we are half intelligent and everybody who's registered actually voted, that's what they're fearful of. They're expecting us to be so overwhelmed with daily issues. Whether I got my utilities, whether I got a job, whether I'm getting my stimulus check, whether or not I'm going to get a new house, am I going to get evicted? My kid just got shot and killed. All of the things that are so distracting to us that when it comes to election time, I don't care about that. I ain't going down there to vote for them people. They don't do nothing for me. And it is a complacent attitude that too many people died for us to have the right to vote, when women were actually asked to be part of the vote. And we finally were allowed to vote. We got the super voter.
Yes.
Women in particular. And so I made it a point, particularly for my house, with 4 sons and 1 daughter. Every last one of y'all, when you turn 18, will be registered and will vote. And every election from 18 and on. My oldest is 39. My next one is 37, 23, 19, 31. All of them are voters. And they go to vote because I impressed upon them from this high the importance of the vote. Don't worry about whether it doesn't count. Make it count by doing it.
There you go.
It's also a home thing. We're not taught this in school. We're not supposed to talk about it at church.
But we do.
We do.
Come on.
Especially if we're going to be friends with senator or congressman or this one, and we give them 10 minutes in our pulpit to talk about the stuff that ain't really magnified. They only come around at election time. They don't come visit us any other time. And so we're friends with them, and we do, well, look, remember my Purton, remember my CDC.
Remember I came here for your dinner.
And yet we haven't vitalized. I mean, you got John Lewis, whose voting thing is still sitting up in the air.
Yes.
You kidding me?
Yes.
George Floyd Criminal Justice Reform Act. After what we witnessed.
Wait a minute. The anti-lynching laws still sitting there. But wait a minute. Here's what killed me. These politicians, when it's times for election, all of a sudden now they want to show up in church. I'm just surprised how many of them step up in the pulpit and don't spontaneously burst into flames. We're going to take a break right now, and I'm with my co-host, the Archbishop, Reverend Mary Palmer. We'll be back right after this break. Dr. Laura Lewis has over 15 years of experience in helping couples heal by building trust, cultivating intimacy, and enhancing communications. Her book, Marital Peace, is a valuable tool to support couples through the challenges of marriage. Her therapeutic approach is influenced by worldwide training in Brazil, Mexico, London, and Haiti. Watch for her Fridays on Roku and YouTube. That's Couples Therapy with Dr. Laura Lewis.
We have 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, call in if you like, if you want to speak to me or Archbishop Palmer. However, okay, so Pennsylvania right now wants to be Arizona. And from what I understand, sources that has been circulating all over certain news channels, the Code of 45 is putting a lot of pressure right now on the state, on the Republican state, to toe the Republican line, to disqualify, nullify the election so that they can bring back 45. Does this make any sense? And why are we trying to let this, or are we going to stand back and let this happen?
First of all, no, it doesn't make any sense, but a fool never does. So I'm good with that. Proverbs is clear that a fool left to himself is of his own folly. Mm-hmm. So my grandmother used to say, don't fight with a fool. They'd make no sense. So when I'm hearing this, realizing that we are supposed to be a good loser, a gracious loser, I was particularly extremely, not surprised, but a little disappointed that even in the result, that there was enough of the American spirit of knowing how to handle a win and a loss, that even Donald Trump would be gracious enough to do what an outgoing president is supposed to do. This is not the office of you. This is the office of the President of the United States. There are protocols and things that are done when one administration is going out and another is coming in. And he was less than gracious. He didn't meet. He didn't talk. He didn't agree. He didn't show up to the inauguration. He's sitting at his place in Florida pouting because I thought it was not going to happen due to January 6th.
Oh, well.
It still happened on January 20th.
Oh, no. His plans got kicked in the face, every last one of them. The vaccine, the COVID virus, it's a Democratic ploy. It's not real. People are dying. Then he got kicked in the face. Then I'm going to give you all this equipment. Nobody got anything. Okay, kicked in the face. Then the election's coming. They send out mail-out ballots. Mail-out ballots are fake ballots. Kicked in the face. So then, after since he couldn't stop the mail-out ballots, then he decided to, since it was coming in through the mail, screw up the postal service. So he knew
everybody had to run down to their state or local county office to get their ballots. And really, how many people in the rural are going to drive 20 miles to the nearest place to cast their ballots? I could tell you that there were some of the folks who were serious about voting that did it. There was one woman I know, she walked 5 miles to cast her ballot. Black woman, it was on CNN or one of them, where she said, I'm 70-something years old. I waited a long time to vote. It's important for me to get my umbrella, my skirt, and some good shoes, some water, and get there. Now, she got to ride back home, but she wasn't waiting on sister or neighbor or preacher or nobody, because she wanted to make sure to put her own ballot in the box. So I'm grateful for those folks that are willing to do whatever it takes. But when you have people who are not living in reality,
well, the reality is this. Donald Trump, in 6 hours of the election, declared himself the winner.
Yes.
Knowing it takes 3 days.
Right.
So,
like I said, some of us have, mental incapacity to deal with reality.
Oh, see, my grandfather would just tell you that F is crazy.
It's a wonder that the nation is still standing after 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess his plan was to now win the second election and then go into dictatorship like Putin did.
Well, I was surprised. I was not surprised that he was very, very quiet underground and this and that. Now he's starting to emerge, starting to have rallies, trying to let people know that he will absolutely positively challenge Joe Biden in 3 years. When he will come back as the president of the United States.
More than likely, by the time the next election comes up, Donald Trump should be wearing an orange jumpsuit, talking about his tax fraud. Okay? That's my prediction.
There are a lot of folks that are hoping that will be the case, particularly now that they're going after Rudy Giuliani and his number one accountant. I mean, people can love you, but when you're looking at some bars and 6x9s, it gives you a whole different.
Bars 6x9 and over 70 years of age who's been living a very comfortable life.
That's correct.
Yeah, I love you, Donald, but hey. Okay, now, all right. So we have to get our ground game going, as President Obama so eloquently put. We cannot stand back and let us go take a step forward and let them make legislation to knock us 2 steps back. Right. We have to start right now with our clipboard in hand, with our cell phone in hand, contacting, organizing, because we need this freedom. And we're going to talk about that in 2 minutes. 2 seconds. I'm Vincent Squire with my guest, my co-host, the Archbishop Mary Palmer. And we'll be right back after this break.
Okay, we are clear.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Yitkadal, Yitkadash Shmirabah, the Alma Divra Chirute, the Amlich Machute.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله.
Our often repeated prayers,
although we may be different,
yet similar.
As we reach out to our Creator,
4 p.m. Eastern
We offer
Standard.
all praise.
Let me see.
And we seek forgiveness.
We ask for peace in our hearts, in our minds, and in our spirits. Amen.
We're coming back on this Thursday. We're talking about the truth. So friend me on Facebook.
We have 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the show. I'm with my co-host, Archbishop Mary Palmer out of Philadelphia. Now, before the break, President Obama has been recently breaking the unspoken code of the ex-presidents. He has been speaking out against, all of the injustices that we've been facing. He has been actively campaigning for, at that time, former Vice President Biden. He has engaged in a nationwide valedictorian or graduation speech for all of our graduates who basically, a lot of them went through Zoom or limited in terms of actual family members because of COVID. He has recently come out and discussed that, this fight is not over. Getting Biden in is not the end. It's just the beginning.
That's right.
And we have to now get ourselves back into the mode because they are looking to the progression of step that we just made. They're now looking to take us back more. And Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. Now, won the presidential, the Democrats, but, majority of them are losing the Republican or losing the state. They're losing their city municipalities. And these people are falling, these Republicans are falling under the cult of 45 mentality, where Donald Trump has a great deal of people, in fact, it's a smaller margin of what people think, who give support, money, donations. If not, they can become very aggressive on social media. I mean, to the point now where we've got, more radical people not believing in our government or anti-government, which are all of these now, they're not even called militias. They're just some right-wing radicalists who have been starting out. The Oath Keepers, a majority of them, former military, yet do not agree or want to be acknowledged by our government. You have the Moors. Now, here's the Moors, a Middle Eastern notch in the Constitution of diplomatic immunity, now adopted by white people to the point where they're in Massachusetts and they have a standoff with police. What the heck? What's going on with this? I mean, really? What's going on with this? Is this the simple fact that whites are fear of black rule? Or is the simple fact that, they're finding out that America is becoming more diverse than what they're comfortable with? Is it the simple fact that, critical race theory makes us understand how screwed up our ancestors were with another race? Or is it the simple fact that we are losing our white privilege and the government is not picking us up?
I would say it's a little bit of all of those. I also do believe that part of it is fear. I said this a little earlier, that the majority is going to become the minority by how many communities of color are added.
2027.
You put that many, this will not be a majority white nation as it is of today. I'm not saying every white person is crazy or agnostic or a fool. Yes, I have some white friends, and I had a conversation with a white pastor friend of mine, and I was saying, What are your feelings about the George Floyd incident? Well, I think the guy did a little bit too much, but at
A little bit.
but at the end of the day, we have to respect law and order. I said, to the point of literally squeezing the life out of someone, and he said to me, I just don't see it. I referred him to A Time to Kill, the movie with Matthew McConaughey.
Yes.
Who was defending Samuel Jackson, who came and killed two white good old boys who beat, raped, almost tried to strangle and kill his daughter. And in his closing summation, he gave a very powerful view of what had happened to this young lady, to an all-white jury.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of his summation, he said, that was what happened to an innocent child. Now, imagine she was white. And almost all of the jurors,
eyes open wide.
eyes open wide.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as it was inhibited by the skin color, it really didn't matter. It was masterful how he brought the reality of the offense and then said, now that were yours.
That's your child.
How would you feel? And so my issue with some of this stuff that's happening now is twofold. One, we can't be silent.
Right.
The silence of our voice is consent.
Mm-hmm.
For most of us, it's complacency.
Right.
A lot of it is guided by fear. Well, if I say this, then what's going to happen to me? And how many people will really go along with what I feel and how I think? There are a lot of groups now that are emerging that don't care. The LGBTQ community is doing it. Those with disabilities are doing it. They're standing up now like never before because there's a certain level of freedom from the control that kept them in a certain place that is allowing them now to be vocal and allowing them to be seen. We can sit back who think we got it going on and say nothing. But the ones who have been disenfranchised in a different way longer than us are finally having a spirit of, I'm going to speak my voice. As an African American, or what you want to call me, a black sister girl, I can't sit here after people like Harriet Tubman and others, and that's going way, way back, but even some of our current leadership, Maxine Waters and others, that are opening up their mouth and saying, no, you're not going to disrespect me. I'm a congresswoman too. No, you're not going to turn the mic off on me like they did on our state's Democratic leader. I earned my right to be here, and I am given the courtesy and the right to speak my truth. Whether you like my truth or not, that's up to you. But I have a right to speak it. And I think that what we as preachers and we as the church has done, when we used to be the forefront.
There you go.
Right. We used to be the ones, everybody waiting for Martin Luther King. The man's been dead for some time. We can't rely on Jesse. And oh my God, we can't go way back to these guys. There is a new emergence of young ones who have vocalism, but they carry it but so far. Now the women are coming up. Now you got the Tamikas that's coming out. You got others that are vocalizing and saying, I ain't worried about nothing. And what we run against is the sexism by the men who think, well, that's really not your place, sis. Well,
really?
You ain't going to do it.
Somebody got to do it.
Somebody that is willing to do it and ain't scared.
Right. So
you want your mega church, you want your pulpit, you want your parking space, you want your money, and you want to go along to get along so nobody bothers you. But for such a time as this, we are now in this period, and I believe this sincerely, that this is the period of the Esthers. Esther is going before the king, going before the Senate, going before the House, going before the state, going before the city and saying, if my people perish, I'll perish. But I'm not letting it go down like that. And it's not until we value, first of all, who we are. God made us for a reason.
Right.
Get past this self-esteem issue. Then secondly, be proud of that and say so. I'm not talking about crazy radicalism like what happened on January 6th. I'm not talking about somebody who's off the kilter, who doesn't know how to accept failure and say, you know what? You ran a good race. Thank you very much. And go on about your business.
No. Whoa. They can accept failure. They just can't accept failure to the black man.
That's a point. I'll give that. If it were another white guy.
Well, good fight. You won. The best man won. Okay, we're going to shake hands. But wait a minute. We lost to the black movement? Oh, hell no. Oh, wait a minute. We lost to a black and a Jew? Oh, hell no. Oh, wait a minute. We lost to Biden, who said, black people, you had my back, and I got your... Oh, no. Let's go to the Capitol. Johnny, get that pickup truck rolled up.
I will tell you, when I saw the January 6th insurrection, my heart sank. I literally sat there watching TV and was crying because.
Oh, wait a minute. We're going to vote against an investigation to find out how it happened and who was in charge.
Well, because I will say this, I'm certain they all know who.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be a surprise to some of us that actually was done from the inside.
Correct.
So they don't want to have it admitted that they did mutiny on their own strength.
Mm-hmm.
Took that. This is why, Liz Cheney was removed, because she wasn't going to stop till she got to the bottom of it. But trust this, her daddy, he got long memories. All
and a lot of money.
Kids that they raised all that money for and are looking for re-election,
right?
I get so much. And now some of them that are taking a stand are really with bullseye on their back. And there's one Republican, I don't remember who it was, the senator said, well, if my term serving is up, then it's up. At least I can walk away with a clear conscience knowing that I stood for what was right.
All right.
Not everybody will.
I applaud the bravery of anybody who is standing up for what's right. And in terms of blacks getting out there and worrying about the repercussions, what we experience now to get out to vote was nothing compared to the early 1900s when our grandfathers had to go out there and vote. See, voter suppression back then wasn't them making legislation so they could cut the hours down shorter so that you can't come and vote after your job. No, voter suppression then was them hanging your uncle in front of the ballot box. And they still got out there and voted.
Oh, you had a hangman's noose. You willing to die for this and still not get counted? Well, I'm going to show up.
Exactly. Because our forefathers, our ancestors, knew that voting changed the lives of their children. That they went to the fact of saying that if I give my life for my child to have a better life, then I will do that. We can't right now sacrifice 1 week pay because it's all about me and me feeling good. We cannot right now sacrifice one indignity to smack our child so that they can learn respect and discipline to be at school on time. We cannot right now sacrifice 1 hour of work to go in to see the teacher to find out what our child is doing. We cannot right now sacrifice a police arresting you from beating your child because they went out the door with a gun.
Well, that goes back to you not allowed in my room, but that's a whole nother story and a whole
nother show.
For another day.
All right. We're going to come back with final words from my co-host, the Archbishop, Reverend Mary Palmer, right after this break.
Dr.
Lewis has over 15 years of experience in helping couples heal by building trust, cultivating intimacy, and enhancing communications. Her book, Marital Peace, is a valuable tool to support couples through the challenges of marriage. Her therapeutic approach is influenced by worldwide training in Brazil, Mexico, London, and Hades. Watch for her Fridays on Roku and YouTube. That's Couples Therapy with Dr. Loa Lewis.
We have 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Where we're like, oh, you want me to go and preach repentance from those people who killed my family? Yeah, Lord, I'm leaving right now to preach to them, Lord. Wait a minute, if I don't preach to them, you're going to destroy them, right? You're going to destroy them if I don't preach to them? All right, I'm on my way, Lord, I'm on my way. And he's heading in the other direction so that he could watch the fireworks. But that's what we're doing right now. We are waiting for somebody else.
Absolutely.
We're saying, okay, Lord, you called me, but and wait a minute, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna stay on the sidelines. Oh Lord, you put me in a position where people are listening to me, where I am influencing people, yet I'm going to be quiet because I don't want people to not like my social media page. You put me in a position, Lord, where people are understanding me and I have an audience and a platform where I can do what's fundamentally right for the advancements and growth of people. Oh, wait a minute, I can do something to help improve the quality of life for my people, but I'm not going to do that, Father, because, Brittany going to unfriend me. Really?
Well, I've come to recognize, and this is something that a social media guru said to me. The many likes, the many comments does not mean that they're sincere.
Come on.
So if you get none, you're standing alone. If you get one every time you post, that don't mean that everybody like you. That don't mean that everybody care. Sometimes people are just groupies. I want to be in the number, but they really are not going to sustain you. And so what I learned was that the power of your voice is necessary. In Proverbs 31:9, it says, open your mouth, judge righteously, and defend the rights of the poor and needy. And then he said to Paul when he was in the jailhouse, do not be afraid, but go on speaking and do not be silent. For I am with you, and no one will attack you to harm you. For I have many in the city who are my people and will stand with you. It does not always mean a crowd. It does not always mean a mob. Sometimes it's just you using the power of your voice to say something that can help to overthrow the enemy in his agenda. And it's not until we open our mouth and say something. It's not until God didn't just think the world into existence. He opened his mouth and spoke it, and it came into pass. Yeah. So the power of the voice is so necessary. And if that is vocally, if that is through singing, if that is through putting your ballot in your choice in writing, then you exercise it, because it's the silence. It's the silence that's going to kill us. The silence of sitting back and saying, and then you can't blame nobody but yourself when you haven't done what you were supposed to do.
So, Archbishop, tell our viewers where they can catch your show.
I have the Bishop Mary Show on Mondays in Philadelphia on WWDB. I am on 8 o'clock on Monday morning, bright and early, kicking off the week from 8 to 9. You can catch it on www.dbam.com to hear it live. You can also go to my website, which is www.bishopmary.com, and you can always catch my podcast. I've had a fabulous run, some excellent guests, some real hot topics, and I certainly would love for you to join me. Today, I had a show which was all sounds of Philly, all leading gospel people, and it was a musical day because of July the 4th or 5th. I guess you would say. Next week, we will be having a spirited discussion about African American and Asian clergy relationship.
All right.
So, tune in 8 o'clock. I'd love to hear your take, and feel free to call in. We'd love to hear your take, because let's be clear, most of us deal with the Asian community from the Black community transactionally. And we do not deal with them in a relationship that helps us to all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. So we're going to talk about the breached relationship of Asian and African Americans and how we can even bridge that gap, starting with the faith community, hopefully spilling out to schools, educations, and businesses as well. Thank you so much for this time to allow me to share with you all.
Well, thank you for being on our show. We've celebrated the 4th of July, and a lot of people are off work today in observance of the independence of our nation. Yet, we celebrate the independence, but let's look at the laws that they are putting in place, taking away our independence, our most solemn and trusted laws in which our forefathers have given their lives so that we would have the right to vote, so that we would have a voice and that peaceful transference of power, so that we would have a voice in who governs us and what laws they're making that we have to observe. Yet, our voices are silenced. They're silenced primarily because we have now embraced the evil. Rather than speaking truth to the power, we're so happy that they come to our church for the chicken dinner. Rather than speaking truth to the power that's supposed to represent you, we are so happy that they acknowledge us and make us famous on their platform. Rather than speaking truth to power, we sell our voice to those who mean no good to us. My pastor Sunday, 4th of July, said some things that I will take to the grave and that I agree wholeheartedly with. The first thing he said is that, you know what? It is difficult preaching truth to power in your church. Why? Because if your sole means of economic gain and prosperity is through the church, you're very careful about what member you talk about, because you might not be able to pay your mortgage. Yet he took an example from the Bible where Jesus sent the disciples 2 by 2 together and basically said, if they're not accepting the word of truth, shake the dust off your feet. That's what we have to do right now. When we have that fear of repercussion of speaking truth to power, shake the dust off your feet. When we are now faced with people who want us to toe the line, and we know that that line is crooked, shake it off. When we are right now put up with the injustices, yet the people who are causing the injustices are our friends, shake it off, because they're no longer your friends.